Hey everybody, it's GoblinX and welcome back to some more Magic Arena, and today we'll be playing another premiere draft of the Brothers War. Without further ado, let's get into the draft. We've got a pretty decent pack here. The rare is pretty much unplayable. It's so much mana in limited. It costs 10 mana to cast this when it's not your turn. To bounce everything and end the turn, it's just not really gonna get there in draft or sealed. We do have some pretty solid uncommons, my favorite of which is the Arbalest Engineers. 3 mana for a very flexible card. It can be a 3/3 trample haste, or it can put that counter onto a different creature you control. It can deal 1 to any target as a 3 mana 2/2, or it can be a 3 mana 2 that makes a tapped Powerstone. It's a really nice flexible card there. It does tie us into 2 colors, but quite a powerful effect. I'm a big fan of it. We could also just take Energy Refractor for staying super open. I think Energy Refractor is a pretty solid inclusion to pretty much any deck. So those are the two ends of the spectrum. The strongest card, but the most restrictive color-wise, or one that's just a solid inclusion into any deck. And I'm just going to go for the more restrictive but more powerful card with Arbalest Engineers. Pack 1, pick 2 now. We've got Goblin Blast Runner, which is super nice in Rakdos Sacrifice. Sentinel Stalwart is pretty fun in any green deck with a lot of cheap artifacts and creatures. Primarily if you have a bunch of Power Stones, you can start using those for a mana of any color with the Stalwart. Do a lot of splashing and mana ramp with that card. Nothing great when it comes to the uncommons and the rares here, but the Thopter is pretty solid and very flexible. I think I'm just going to take the Sentinel Stalwart here. It's a lot of fun in the right deck with a bunch of Power Stones and stuff like that. So we'll see if we can't get into a nice splashy Sentinel Stalwart deck. Pack 1, pick 3. A big fan of the Combat Courier. Very flexible card. You do prefer to be in blue, but if you just have some ways to splash it in for the Unearth effect, like Energy Refractors and Sentinel Stalwarts, then you can play it in any deck because the upfront cost of just the 1/1 that cycles to draw a card is pretty decent. So I like Combat Courier a lot. Super flexible. Mightstone's animation pretty strong if you're a dedicated blue deck with a ton of artifacts in it. Obviously, the kind of joke here is that you put it onto a Power Stone and you animate the Power Stone itself, and that is a great way to use the card. So Mightstone's animation is also pretty good in this pack. I like Power Stone Fracture as removal, and Blast Runner in aggressive red decks, but Combat Courier is the most flexible card, and it works the best with our first 2 picks. Pick 4 now. I don't really like this pack at all. I guess the best cards here are I guess Blanchwood Prowler is pretty decent. 2 mana 1/1 draws you a land out of the top 3. It fills your graveyard as well, which is good if you have a ton of Unearth. So Blanchwood Prowler could be the pick. There's also Juggernaut. It's kind of like an Unearth finisher, just a big trampling dork. I do prefer the cheaper Unearth cards that give you some kind of value when they hit the board other than just doing damage. So I really like the Combat Courier, where you Unearth it and draw a card, or any of the Scrapwork cards that give you a 1/1 when they hit the board, or discard a card, draw a card when they hit the board, or just straight up draw a card when they hit the board. I like that kind of stuff instead of just like a beefy dork, but the beefy dork is still good. It's still an option. So it's mainly Blanchwood Prowler, the Juggernaut, or Bitter Reunion for some card draw that doubles as a kind of haste effect there. But I'll take the Blanchwood Prowler. This will be a very easy Boulder Branch Golem. Very strong, very flexible card where if you're really getting beaten down early, you can drop it as a 4 mana 3/3 gain 3. But ideally, you use this to stabilize and flip the game in your favor. Once you have 7 mana, you get the biggest creature on board, get a 6/5, and you gain 6 life to make up for any early life loss. Big fan of the Boulder Branch Golem. Also a pretty big fan of Chromatic Star. This is one of these flexible, colorless mana fixing cards that fits well into most decks in the format, but it is competing with Boulder Branch. If Boulder Branch Golem weren't here, it'd very easily be Chromatic Star for me. Alright, pack 1, pick 6. Ooh, no love for Blackblade Reforged? I guess that makes sense. There's not a ton of legendary creatures in this format, so you do have to spend the 7 mana to move it around. But once you have 7 mana, every creature in your deck becomes a win condition. Even if it's just a Combat Courier, I just slap a blade onto it, and now it's an 8/8 Combat Courier, so I'll take Blackblade Reforged. Definitely not like a pack 1, pick 1, maybe not even a pick 2 or pick 3, but out of everything that's left at this point, I think it's pretty safe to pick the Blackblade up. Pick 7 now. We can take that Mishra's Juggernaut for that great Unearth card. Works really well with our Self-Mill of the Blanchwood Prowler. Nice Trampler there. Emergency Weld's a great black value play. And Rust Goliath is a dorky big card if we get a ton of mana ramp. I've only got a little bit right now. I'm not so bold as to try to play the 10/10 Reach Trample. It's very fun. It does have the prototype backup of being a 5 mana 3/5 Reach Trample, but that's not the greatest deal. So you really don't want to be doing that ideally. I'm just going to take the Juggernaut. Now we've got a Self-Assembler, which is really sweet if you can draft multiple copies of Self-Assembler itself, but it's really easy to have this alongside any other assembly worker because there's 3 different ones at common in this format. None of them are exceptional, but if you have a Self-Assembler, then they go up a lot in value, where this is just a good card draw spell. Pick 9 now, scoop up an Energy Refractor. I was considering first picking this card, and it came all the way back, so I'm pretty happy to see that. There's also still a Mightstone's animation in there. Okay, now we've got a Blitz Automaton and pretty much nothing else. Powerstone Fracture, solid black card. The Archaeologist has actually gone up a lot, in my opinion. I think it's actually kind of impressive. Like a 2-mana 0/3 draw card is really good, and if you have enough non-creature cards in your deck, it's kind of just that. So Archaeologist is actually kind of cool. I think I will take that over Powerstone Fracture because we have been seeing some good blue running around. Alright, I'm not going to play any of these in blue. Maybe Curate. I'm definitely not playing Over the Top. Yeah, that is wild. That is way too chaos for me. It's also a ton of mana. I think, well, I'll take Emergency Weld now. Super late for that stuff. Now I'll take Pallbearer, because we're likely in green. And we've got so many colorless cards here that we're still kind of open to doing anything. It's one of the sweet things about this format is that there's so many artifacts. You could even draft very specifically in a way where you're taking nothing but colorless cards as long as possible and just deciding your colors later. So that is one of the sweet things about the format. Pack 2, pick 1. I think the strongest card here, if we don't pay attention to colors, is Hero of the Dunes. Not very far towards white-black, but we've got Fixing with Energy Refractor and Sentinel Stalwart, and we're not married to any colors yet. So I think I'll still take this card. I think this thing is just busted, but there are a couple other incredible options. One of them is Brotherhood's End, which is great if we're a much slower, grindier red deck. Obviously pretty bad if we're aggressive and we're trying to play this, but it could be good in a slower, grindier deck. And then Mishra's Bauble, which just fits into absolutely anything and draws us a card. So I'm going to take the Hero of the Dunes here. I think I'm open enough, yeah, to where if we get just multiple Hero of the Dunes here, we try to push back into that direction. There's a Scrapwork cohort, though, and a Scrapwork Mutt. These are those Unearth cards that I love. Really easy to cast up front, and very easy to splash in the Unearth abilities for good value. There's also the Refractor to go with them. I'm just going to take a second Hero of the Dunes, but I'm going to hope that we get real lucky and maybe wheel a Scrapwork card or two. Okay, 3 Hero of the Dunes in a row, and there's another Scrapwork Mutt here. Doubt it's coming back, but we'll see. We have changed direction. We are a Hero of the Dunes deck, so we're going to try to be green-black splash white, green-white splash black, or if we get super lucky with how the draft goes, if these colors are open enough, we just fully become a black-white deck at this point. We'll see. Alloy Animist is good if you have a ton of Power Stones. We don't really. Gix's Caress is pretty solid in black. Prison Sentence pretty solid in white. This is really bad against like the black-red sack deck and against blue decks that have bounce. But any other deck it's pretty good against. I think I'd rather just take Gix's Caress. I think it's more consistently good. Pull out our opponent's best play from their hand, make them discard it. Plus I'm slightly deeper into black than white with Emergency Weld. And I saw some late like Power Stone Fractures and stuff. So I think I've seen a little bit better late game, or a little bit better black cards going late in the draft than white cards. Now I'm just going to take Thopter because since it's colorless, it ends up in the deck no matter what. There's a Static Net for exceptional removal out of white. Pick 6. Maybe black-white is just the place to be in this draft pod because now there's a Power Stone Fracture too. I'm going to need to find a lot of creatures, but it looks like black-white is a fine place to be here overall. Still going to keep the green in for now. Scrapwork Mutt, pick 8. I'll take that over an energy refractor, I think. Since I already have one of those and potentially Sentinel Stalwart if we are green, white, black. And we do need creatures pretty badly. I've just taken a bunch of good non-creature spells. Yeah, I have 1 2-mana creature. And it's a green one, so if I'm going to be just black-white, I'm incredibly low on creatures. Alright, pick 9. We didn't wheel any of the scrapwork stuff. That was in our opening pack. That's sad. Can take a mine worker, since it's colorless, fits into the deck no matter what, and we've got the self-assembler to go with it to draw it. If we draw the self-assembler first, we'll be pretty happy. If we draw the self-assembler after we've drawn the mine worker, we'll be pretty sad. But that's just how the cookie crumbles. Okay, we do get another energy refractor back. That's going to be pretty necessary here. I'll take it over a Wellspring or a Moment of Defiance. Power Plant Worker is a much better assembly worker to have in your deck alongside the self-assembler. So I will take that. Because by the time you're playing a self-assembler, you already have 5 mana on board, so you would much prefer to search out another 5-drop than a 2-drop. Not going to play any of those. I guess the 4/2 that mills yourself when it dies is actually pretty good with Unearth stuff, so we could have taken that, but I'm trying to hopefully have pack 3 get us into just white and black mainly. Because I'm really like 3 cards deep into green. So this is like 19 out of 23 playables. I just need 4 more cards, ideally all creatures here. We're almost all colorless, which is how we just get to play triple Hero of the Dunes. Yeah, we're really looking for cheap creatures. Mana value 3 and less creatures and white or black, and we open up 0 of those in pack 3. So it's just Prison Sentence or Bust, basically. That or a War Plow or something. I guess we're taking a Prison Sentence. Tried to pick up the Prison Sentence there. There we go. Third Energy Refractor. These have been flying around the draft pod, so we can probably pick that up later. We really need the cheap creatures, so I'm going to take a Phalanx Vanguard now for a 2-drop creature. Plus, I have so many artifacts in this deck, this will probably pretty consistently be like a 3/2 Vigilance, which is nice. There were some incredible blue uncommons there. Oh my god, well, I can't resist. I mean, you have to. You have to. You just have to. You can't not. No 2 or 3 mana creatures here unless I try to splash in the Evangel of Synthesis off of double Energy Refractor. Rough. I'm going to have 4 Hero of the Dunes and like no creatures to reanimate with them, which is so awkward. I'm just going to take a Keening Stone. I probably shouldn't, but whatever. There's nothing in that pack I can really play super well. Alright, Warlord's Elite actually looks great in this deck. We have 4 Hero of the Dunes to reanimate it, and we've got random dirtily Black Blades and Energy Refractors sitting on the board to tap when we cast it for cheaper. And again, Energy Refractors everywhere, so we might even get 1 or 2 of those back. Okay, no 3 mana or less creatures is sad. There's a Gigamole for more self-mill. Potential card draw stuff, I guess. Disciples is pretty nice late game, but I've got a lot of 6-7 mana stuff. The Black Blade as well, kind of like a 7 mana finisher. Recommission is sweet in the black-white archetype when you draft enough 3 mana value or less creatures, but we kind of didn't, so I'll just take a Static Net. There we go. Gnawing Vermin is perfect. 1 mana creature trades up into 2 mana creatures more often than not because it can give something -1/-1 and deal a damage to it. And it can give us some self-mill with our Unearth nonsense and our Hero of the Dunes nonsense for reanimation. I think that is very good here. But here's that awkward part where now we've wheeled and we saw like no 2 mana value or less creatures in any of these packs from this point on because these are all the packs wheeling back to us. Alright. Well, this is going to be an interesting time. I guess Skullflayer is 3 mana value or less, and now I've got a decent amount of self-mill. So that might be a thing. Get more Unearth with the self-mill. I don't think I need emergency weld shenanigans with 4 heroes and big Unearth cards. Guess a Trench Stalker, but I'm probably not playing it. I will be open to playing another emergency weld. Okay. Well, we got a playset of Hero of the Dunes, but we didn't find the cheap black and white creatures to go with it. So that's a little awkward. We're going to have to run some strange, fillery artifact creatures. But we have an okay amount of mana value, 3 or less cards. Not nearly as much as we want. We still have 5 cards that cost 2 or less and 3 3-drops, so 8 that cost 3 or less total. Enough to consistently reanimate like one thing from Hero of the Dunes, especially if I'm self-milling with Gigamole. Boulder Branch Golem without green is pretty bad, but I've got double Energy Refractor, but I still think I'm cutting that. Same with Blitz Automaton without red. And even if this deck isn't as aggressive as I wanted it to be, I feel like Keening Stone is still much too slow for this deck, so I'll drop that. And then we just drop a lot of our 5 mana stuff and focus on just Hero of the Dunes. At that point, we might just drop the Self-Assembler, because we need to cut 6 cards. So we drop the Self-Assembler stuff, keep the Juggernaut in with our double Refractor. I feel like Emergency Weld is like the most cuttable. Maybe Blackblade, because now we don't have any ramp. So Blackblade does get worse. We've got a lot of Power Stones at least. Spend that 7. Gix's Caress, double Static Net for Power Stones. I guess that's still only 3. It's not great. Yeah, I'm not loving Juggernaut or the Reanimation or the Blackblade. Yeah, I mean, I think we're just trying to curve out with like mediocre creatures and then drop a Hero of the Dunes and win off that. Far from the spiciest deck I've ever drafted, but if we curve out with these and then slam down a Hero of the Dunes and play a removal spell or two, that is a way to win a game. Card quality is pretty low, but deck's looking pretty consistent. Yeah, I think Emergency Weld's pretty aggressive too, so we could... Well, no, Weld's kind of more slow than aggressive. The Juggernauts are more aggressive than this. But 5 mana is a lot. I don't even want an Aeronaut's Wings to jump over some stuff. What's our creature count? 14? Feels like we dropped the welds and add 2 more creatures in. I guess if I do put the Self-Assembler back in, I do have Mine Worker and Power Plant Worker, so it's pretty hard to drop both of those before Self-Assembler. At least it's not like a 50-50 like it would be if we only had one other assembly worker. There's a lot of ways we could do this. We can do the assembly worker package, we can do the Juggernauts Unearth package. Cut a land or 2. Could throw in the Blackblade. 7 mana win con. We could technically throw in the Keening Stone, but I think if I'm putting in like a really expensive win condition, I'd rather just put in the Blackblade. Every time I draft a Self-Assembler, it just makes me want them to put Kaladesh drafts back on Arena. Because this card was so awesome in that format, because it was a common and you just drafted every copy of it. And they would tutor for themselves, so you'd have like 4 copies of in your deck. So it's like if you just made it to 5 mana, you're like, okay, I'm going to win now. Because now my opponent has to beat me playing a 4/4 every turn for the next 4 turns in a row. Ah, that stuff was so sick. Kaladesh was sweet. It's very reminiscent to Brothers War as well, because Kaladesh had the whole draft plan of just drafting a bunch of colorless cards and deciding your colors later. There were tons of powerful artifacts in the format. I'm just reminiscing about Kaladesh instead of building the deck, so I guess at this point we're just locked in because my brain is going to nostalgia mush. We'll run the deck like this, have that nostalgic Self-Assembler in here, see if it does any work for us. Alright, here's a look at our deck list for today. It's going to be a Black-White Hero of the Dunes aggro deck. Now, we pivoted into this pretty late, thanks to having a bunch of colorless cards that we drafted early. But even pivoting late, we got 4 copies of Hero of the Dunes. So that's really the MVP of the deck. That's the whole idea here, is that you can curve out with really any mediocre 1, 2, 3 drops, and then slam down a Hero of the Dunes on turn 5 to reanimate something that traded off early and buff your whole board and try to win off of that card. So that is our big win condition, our big plan. This deck's not as good as I had hoped it would be, because you see 4 Hero of the Dunes and you're like, this deck's going to be insane, this deck's going to be unbeatable. Because if you have like pretty solid creatures at 3 mana or less, then this card's going to be absurd and you're going to win a lot of games. The problem is, because of our late pivot, and because the colors weren't super open, we just didn't get a lot of spicy creatures at mana value 3 and less. Like, none of these are super great, super aggressive stuff. Got Skullflayer, Thopter. Warlord's Elite is the best card to go with our 4 Hero of the Dunes, but everything else is like 2 mana 2/1s and stuff. Nothing super spicy, nothing super aggressive there. So it's not going to be as explosive as it could have been if we were in Magical Christmas Land, where we get 4 Hero of the Dunes and Black-White is wide open, and we just get a bunch of aggressive like 2 mana 3/1s and all kinds of crazy stuff like that. But still a deck that looks like it should be able to win a few games, but I think it is probably the most mediocre deck that we've drafted in this return trip to the Brothers War so far. So a little sketched out about that, but we've got excellent removal, 2 Static Net, Prison Sentence, Powerstone Fracture. We've got good fixing for our off-color Unearth effects with double Energy Refractor. These work well with Combat Courier, Scrapwork Mutt, and they can get tapped for Warlord's Elite and stuff like that. And then we've got a Self-Assembler package. We have Self-Assembler to hit the board and draw a Power Plant Worker or a Mine Worker. So Self-Assembler, 5 mana 4/4, that always draws us another creature when it hits the board. So that'll be pretty good too. So pretty average stuff here overall, which is a little sad because 4 Hero of the Dunes, again, looks like it could turn into an absolutely explosive, completely insane deck, but the power level of our other cards just isn't really there, and that kind of drags down the deck power as a whole right back down to average, where quadruple Hero of the Dunes is insane, super powerful, that brings us to massive heights, but the card quality of our other creatures drops us right back down to the mediocre levels. But we'll see how many wins we can get out of this one. Hopefully it can keep up as best as it can with our other decks. I think our lowest win rate so far has been a 6-win run, so fingers crossed. It's going to be pretty hard to get that, but we'll see. I'll play the best I can as we head into game 1. Here we are for game 1. The hand's a little slow, but overall pretty solid. Not playing a creature till turn 3, but we've got tons of excellent non-creature spells here. Fantastic removal, and we've just drawn into even more. With Prison Sentence and double Static Net, the Static Nets being the really good removal spells here. But our opponent's on green-white, so they probably won't have anything great to do to get their creature out of a Prison Sentence. Just stop mana abilities? Yeah, activated abilities can't be activated. I could shut off their Mana Dork, but I might as well just kill whatever they play off of it. Because in Limited, they're just going to be ramping into big, beefy creatures, and I have 3 removal spells in this hand to kill all their beef. So we'll just focus on doing that. Hoarding Recluse. That's pretty annoying. We'll probably kill that. Because we can't attack through it with the Thopter. I guess I should Gigamole first in case I mill a 3 mana or less creature for Hero of the Dunes. We do? And I'll pick up another Hero of the Dunes? Okay, hold up. This deck might be real. That makes me pretty excited in general. That could be good. We do stuff like that every game. Mill a 3-drop creature and pick up a Hero of the Dunes to pick up that creature. Pretty good Gigamole trigger, I would say. And now when we have Hero of the Dunes on board, our Thopter's a 3-power creature to attack into the Recluse. And then if they don't use the Recluse to put our Thopter back on bottom of our deck, then we can just pick it up again with our second Hero of the Dunes. That's wild. Hold up. Alright, so Hero of the Dunes, get the Skullflayer, send in the 3/1. I forgot Gigamole's not going to get buffed because it's our only 4-drop creature on board right now. It's too expensive to get buffed by the Hero of the Dunes. Alright, they are going to trade. They're probably going to put our Thopter on the bottom of our deck, so we can't unearth it. If they do that, we'll just play Warlord's Elite or one of our many removal spells first. Yeah. Alright, goodbye, Thopter. Slight sadness. Gwenna, Eyes of Gaia, so that's even more Manadork stuff. And that one gets bigger and gets +1/+1 counters when it ramps into things. Okay. So, what do we got here? 1/3, a 1/1, a 2/3. No creatures in our grave. Skullflayer is the one that we could reanimate with a hero, so we send in the Skullflayer. Offer the trade there. How do they kill Gigamole? If they double block with Gwenna and somebody else, they can kill it. Got 3 removal spells. Do I have the mana to play Warlord's Elite and Prison Sentence? I do if I tap 2 things. So we Warlord's Elite, tap Hero of the Dunes Energy Refractor? Then I can do it? Sure. So Prison Sentence on Gwenna. Scry 2. I'll draw these cards. Well, not the Mine Worker. I'll draw the Power Plant Worker. It's pretty beefy at this point. And then we attack with Skullflayer and Gigamole. They could just block with the Clear Cutter on the Gigamole, but get some damage in with the other. And they don't take the block, so now we just Warlord's Elite. Tapping the hero and the Refractor, and that'll be a 5/4. Feels good. Feels like some good stuff there. Ooh, there's the shoot down to save Gwenna from the Prison Sentence. Still have my double static net. And they're just going to pass turn, so we probably just use one of these. I do this, or I Power Plant Worker. It's a 2/3 on board. Maybe I just send in the 5/4 and the 3/3, because if either of them die, we reanimate with a hero, and if neither die, we just play a Power Plant Worker, which is still fine. We can save the static nets in case something goes really wrong. So our opponent's green-white ramp deck here still looks to be sitting with a bunch of Manadorks and no big creatures. Now they're tapping for mana, so we'll see. Boulder Branch Golem, there we go. Their first big creature. We can exile that and get it out of the way. We are probably at the point where we're attacking with everybody. They're at 13 here. They can definitely find some good blocks, but I've got an additional hero to reanimate something and still give my board the +1/+0. I guess now that they have a 3/4, they can just block and kill Skullflayer or Hero for free. That's just one of their blocks. One of their blocks is free. Everything else we're actually killing something at least. Yeah. Jam on in there, friends. Let's just see what happens. They're down to 2? Alright, feels pretty good. Our Hero of the Dunes can pick up that Skullflayer now. I should specify our Hero of the Dunes copy number 2 of 4 can pick up that Skullflayer. Copy 1 is dead. If I do that pre-combat, I just make Elite 5 power instead of 4, which I don't really think matters that much. I could Static Net and still have the Power Plant Worker mana up. But I don't need to buff that either too much. I guess I just send in because everybody's already lethal. And then we Hero of the Dunes post-combat. I guess I don't send the Gigamole in against Gwenna. Does he use abilities? Ooh, it does. They can make the Sprite a 4/4, but I still trade into that. And send in the team. Alright, kill Gwenna. Reanimate a Warlord's Elite. When does this thing trigger? At the beginning of your upkeep? Be a 3/4 when it triggers. It won't trigger immediately here, because if I pick it up, then there's only 2 left still. So I think I still just take Warlord's Elite. Yeah, I still just take Warlord's Elite. Pass from there. And our opponent scoops them up. We're going to start things off 1-0. Turns out casting Hero of the Dunes is tremendously powerful, even with some dorky creatures like some Gixian Skull Flayers with no creatures engraved. It just does a 2-3. Still turns into a 3-3 with Hero of the Dunes. So, nice start. We are 1-0 heading into round 2. Here we are for game 2. We've got a Gnawing Vermin on turn 1 to mill ourselves, fill that grave for the hero. And then the energy refractors to make sure we have our white mana, even if I don't draw planes, which is looking like the case now. We've drawn our 4th swamp before planes. And we just milled the planes with the Gnawing Vermin. Alright. Awkward start. Hero of the Dunes is going to be 6 mana at this rate, since we do not have a planes for it. There's an Air Marshal from our opponents. We draw into a Gigamole for turn 4, which is not bad. And we find the planes for Hero of the Dunes. I would not be opposed to trading Gnawing Vermin for the Air Marshal, but I'd rather do it on blocks right now, because I stop 2 damage by not attacking unless they spend 3 to give the Air Marshal flying. In which case, they're spending their turn not playing any more creatures or anything, which is fine. Alright, play a Thopter Mechanic. That card is not fine at all. I would love a way to sacrifice this Gnawing Vermin, because I would just like to kill the Thopter Mechanic immediately. It gets bigger when they draw their 2nd card each turn, and when it dies they get a 1/1 flyer. Double Gigamole into Hero is nice. Gotta just pass the turn here, at least the Vermin keeps some blocks off. Alright, double Gigamole, double Hero of the Dunes, that's what I'm talking about. Could give us a shot here. Gigamoles to fill that grave, and if we mill any more copies of Hero of the Dunes, we pick those up as well. And then just keep slamming down 2-for-1 Hero of the Dunes for the rest of the game. Alright, our opponent drops a Combat Courier, cycles it to draw a card and buff the Thopter Mechanic. And they are not going to attack into the Gnawing Vermin, fair enough. Let's drop a Gigamole, fill our graveyard, find a Warlord's Elite. I would rather have a 3-4 on the board and reanimate a Warlord's Elite than put that in my hand, I think. Now we get to start chipping in for 1 damage with the Vermin, since the Gigamole keeps everything off of us as well. So more often than not, we should be picking up anything that we get with the Gigamole just to turn everything into a 2-for-1. Then the Gigamole becomes a 2-for-1. The heroes are all 2-for-1s, stuff like that. But I think the 3-4 body is actually pretty important against Mechanic in case they draw another card. They do have the Prison Sentence to get rid of Gigamole, so that doesn't work out super well for us. But I think it's fine. Oh, yes. Alright, it's go time. No thoughts, only action now. Let's get in there, team. It's hero time. We've got 2 more heroes in the hand to keep jamming out if they just keep killing my Warlord's Elite. No, not pacifism effects. God, I want to draw my sack effects so badly. I think I only have 1 though, just a Powerstone Fracture. But wow, would it be good here. Snap trade. Alright, so I only bring back a Mine Worker if I play another hero right now. Let's play the Gigamole. Fill that grave. Now there's a Skull Flayer to reanimate. Have I milled my Powerstone thing? No, so I do still have a sack effect in the deck. There's 17 cards left. There's a sack effect somewhere in there that would be incredible. Sack the Vermin, kill the Flyer. and blow up something else with Powerstone, or sack the Warlord's Elite to have it engraved for the heroes. Yoshin Medic, 1/4 life linker. That's actually a big deal. It's a large blocker, and it's going to gain them a little bit of life every time. Siphon off some of the damage. I've got one and a blue up that might have the scatter ray thing, but I have my full playset of heroes in hand, so there's no way I'm jamming anything else down here. I think we just keep jamming out heroes. I guess Power Plant Worker also kind of needs to get countered. So that could draw the counter out of their hand. Taking 1 a turn. I take 3 a turn if they start air marshalling in. Sure, we drop the Power Plant Worker, get that scatter raid. Okay, no scatter rays. Now we just start sending in a bunch of Hero of the Dunes. Still get to keep sending in Gnawing Vermin every turn. Ooh. We do get to kill something, okay. Maybe they have a combat trick in their hand to save whatever I target. We might be getting to the point at 12 life here. I'm only taking 1 a turn from the Thopter, where it's better to get rid of the Air Marshal, because that could give anything flying. Guess I'll try. Oh my god, wow. Talk about a blowout. Well, I guess it would have been better to hit the token then. So then they still get a 3/2 Zephyr Sentinel, but at least I do actually kill something. Oh my god, yeah. Zephyr Sentinel is just kind of a busted magic card in general. 2 mana, 3/2 flyer at instant speed, seems pretty fair. Also save a creature from a removal spell, why not? Okay, we're dead. Alright. Their whole board is flying, they're drawing extra cards every turn, and we're dying in 2 hits. What a swing of events there. Good grief. Alright. Well, we can pack it up. That was not particularly beatable, that last swing of turns. I mean, I guess I could have killed the Thopter, but they still would have had a 5 damage in the sky, gain 2, draw a card there. Which we're not outracing, because it's lifelink as well. Okay. Really just a matchup, we need Powerstone Fracture. If we had a Powerstone Fracture, I think at any point in this game, would have had a pretty solid shot. I guess we could have still just gotten got, because we would have tried to Powerstone Fracture when they still had Zephyr Sentinel in their hand. We were probably getting crushed by Zephyr Sentinel no matter what. But Powerstone Fracture against their like Prison Sentence would be really powerful. Alright, so now they just put that on the medic and attack with only the medic every turn. Which is pretty busted. I was expecting them to just have a removal spell or a bounce spell here, and then we just insta-die anyway. I guess this isn't as bad as that. I guess it's not one-hit lethal. So I don't have to chump it immediately, but if I don't chump it now, they can just go wide and kill me next turn, and if I do chump it now, they can kill me next turn regardless. I guess if I chump it now, if it attacks alone and they don't draw another creature, I don't die. And if it attacks together, we get hit for... I guess we get hit for lethal if it attacks together with everything else. So either way, we're dead next turn to another attack. I can Hero the Dunes back the flyer, though, for another chump. If they don't have a counterspell for it. Okay. Send in the team. Hero of the Dunes back the Thopter. We're still just dead to them having one removal spell or bounce spell or something. There's an air marshal. There's an airlift chaplain, so we're definitely dead next attack. And they have a million blockers, so we can't kill them on the crackback. Even if they didn't have life gain here. But they do have a mountain of life gain. Static nets. I need one more mana to static net and play a Hero of the Dunes, so I'm still just dead. I can static net the medic, and they still have 6 power flyers on the board, and I don't have a flying blocker. And if I Hero of the Dunes to reanimate a flyer to chump block the medic, then they can just attack with everybody instead. Where I chump block the sentinel and take 5, but the air marshal puts itself in the sky as well, so we die. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. I'm 1 mana off from killing them if they don't block. So if I attack with everybody, because I'm 1 damage off from lethal, they probably have to block in case I have something. So I guess we attack with everybody to clear out a flyer. Then Hero of the Dunes back the Thopter. I think that's our best bet. And then if they don't block here, we just put them to 1 to send a message and lose. Trade in a chump. This is good. Okay. Static net gains me life as well, doesn't it? 2 life. Net the medic and they don't have life gain anymore. They have 5 flying power on the board. I'll be at 8, take 5, go to 3. I think I have to just Hero of the Dunes the Thopter again and hope to hit another mana to play Hero plus Static Net next turn. Because I guess I still die because they have Cohort with haste coming in as well for 3 more damage. Yeah, I need more blockers. And Hero is 2 blockers. Their deck must be really low on removal and interaction, but I guess so is ours. We played 1 prison sentence. If we had any other piece removal again on the medic, that could have changed things here. But if they had any piece removal on our Thopter these last few turns, we would also have been dead several turns ago, so both of us just not finding our interaction. We're still definitely behind, because every turn they're just drawing more and more cards while retaining their life total. Thanks to the lifelink. So they've been in the lead for many turns. We have to block like this to not die on board. If I hit a land, this could be massive. Well, no, because the Medic has an equipment on it. Yeah, since they have the Sigil of Valor, actually, I don't think I can turn this around. If they didn't have Sigil of Valor, then Static Net on the Medic and Hero of the Dunes to get back to Thopter would stop everything they have in the sky. But since they have the Sigil, if I do that, they just move the Sigil onto the Chaplain and keep attacking with that. Didn't hit the land anyway. So I can't Hero of the Dunes and Static Net. So I can't live. I can only stop one flying creature. Yep, so I Static Net the Medic, and then they just put the Sigil on the Chaplain and attack me with that one, and I die. Or I Hero of the Dunes on the Thopter, and they attack me with both, and I die. They've got a line to kill me either way. Alright, well. We'll cast all our cards. See what they have in hand with this Gix's Caress. Lawrence Escape? Alright, that does literally nothing, so that's fine. But I guess get that out of the way before the Static Net is cool. Get rid of a gigantic flyer. And maybe they somehow won't see the line for lethal. I don't know how they wouldn't, but we'll see. Suit up the Chaplain, send it in. Alright, you got me. Alright. Big fat L there. The big loss was due to that one turn really is where things completely turned around. Zephyr Sentinel plus Take Flight in one swing was absolutely insane. Just getting a 3/2 flyer on the board at instant speed. Zephyr Sentinel is just a really, really strong card. And then Take Flight is a glass cannon. Take Flight is like if your opponent has removal for it immediately, then it's whatever. But if your opponent does not have removal quickly, you are just going to win the game from there. But I think our deck still did pretty impressively against that Take Flight, because that thing drew them like 4 or 5 extra cards, and we still like grinded it out and didn't die for a long time on the back foot that far in card advantage. So I guess it's because the Hero of the Dunes are like 2-for-1s every time, so while it was a loss in the end, it does make me pretty confident about the power level of our deck. Just slightly different variation of draws there, and we could potentially have won that game. Just needed to find our Powerstone Fracture earlier, stop the Take Flight right when it happens, or one of our, if we hit one of our Static Nets earlier to get rid of the Take Flight, like the turn that it hit the board, I think we probably could have won that game, because our opponent ended up with like 2 cards in hand in the end. So if we had stopped them from drawing those extra 4 or 5 cards, maybe we do eventually stabilize with the Hero of the Dunes Thopter loops to clear out flyers. Sigil of Valor was a really big deal too, though. That would have made it pretty difficult. But we could have outraced if we got rid of the lifelinker. Just chumping with the Thopter every turn and attacking with the rest of our board, so I do think clearing out the lifelinking take-flighted creature could have significantly changed the outcome of that game. That was our big out we had to hope for there. Alright, this hand is exceptional. Got multiple creatures to curve up into the Hero of the Dunes with. There's a Coastal Bulwark to slow us down here. But with Phalanx Vanguard, we can play our Energy Refractor next turn and still attack with a 3/2 Vigilance into the 3/3 Defender. And if it dies, it dies. We've got a Hero of the Dunes to pick it up later, so there's that. Now there's a Scrapwork Mud I could use instead of the Refractor. Discard our 5-drop Power Plant Worker. This way I'm committing more creatures to the board while I'm getting my Vanguard attack in, potentially. Yeah, next turn I'm going to play Warlord's Elite probably, so discard the 5-drop. We do hit a Ravenous Gigamole, which is another card I'd like to play next turn, so that might change things. Maybe we don't play the Elite. Really got to hit some lands, though. I might have to just play Refractor next turn. Because we're trying to hit lands all the way up to turn 5. That's why we're running 17, even though we're kind of an aggressive deck. We have 4 incredibly important 5-mana cards in this deck, so we want to hit 5 lands turn 5 as frequently as often. Or as frequently as possible, as often as possible. Kind of mixed up those two sayings. Alright, green-blue from our opponent with a Scrapwork Rager. We miss a land, which is really bad. So we energy refractor it up. Dig for that land. Miss again. Alright. Well, now we just pass, because the Vanguard just trades into a Rager that they can reanimate later if they get their own energy refractor onto the board. Take my 2 damage. Mightstone and Weakstone, incredible card. Very flexible, draw 2 or removal spell for 5 generic mana. It is a colorless card, so any deck can use it well. Drawn to a combat courier, we have got to find lands, so we are going to drop that down. At least now I have a good attack with the Vanguard since the Rager's tapped. Still no mana. $14 lands out of 25 cards. We're at starting to get pretty weighted. Starting to become a coin flip that's like super weighted in our favor at this point. It's more than half lands now. Alright, I gotta trade with the Rager at some point. They probably have the Refractor in hand. They're just trying to get me to trade when I don't know about it. Nope, no Refractor. At least not yet. Just play a gigantic Spotter Thopter. Now we desperately need that land to clear this thing out. Even if I clear it out, though, it still scryed 4 when it hit the board to dig into their next gigantic prototype creature. Yeah, we probably just missed way too many land drops this game. We needed to be really aggressive against a green-blue ramp deck like this, because now they're just going to keep playing a giant prototype creature each turn, and we cannot keep up with that. Did find the land for the static net, at least, which is very good. But, as I said before, they just scryed 3 to the top. I'm expecting to see 3 incredibly massive creatures in a row. And that is how it's looking. There's a Depth Charge Colossus for a 9/9. So we need to try to get as many creatures out as possible. If I Hero of the Dunes, it picks up a Scrapwork Mutt, which discards a Warlord's Elite to draw a card. And then I can play Hero of the Dunes next turn, picking up a Warlord's Elite. So if I play a Hero, I'm playing 2 creatures. If I play Gigamole plus Vermin, I'm playing 2 creatures. So I'm just going to play Gigamole Vermin, I think. Milled one of my removal spells, that's awkward. Alright. Our win condition here is to go wide around their gigantic creatures. If we just play enough creatures on this board and buff them all up with Hero of the Dunes, we might be able to hit them with 3 of them to deal 10 damage. Maybe it has to be 4 of them. Costs 3 mana to untap that. Take my 9. Another Spotter Thopter, which scries into more gigantic creatures. Kills me in 3 turns by itself in the sky. If I hit a land, I can play Mine Worker and a Hero. That is the most creatures that I can play this turn. So let's do that. Pick up the Scrapwork Mutt, discard an Elite, and draw a card. Find a reconstructed Thopter for a chump block in the sky. Attack with my Vanguard, I just trade into the Bulwark. That gets one blocker out of here. They don't actually have the mana to untap the Depth Charge Colossus. But if I attack with all three of these, I just hit them for 2, I lose a Gigamole for nothing. I lose a Gigamole to hit them for 2, basically. Because they'll just block Gigamole with the Thopter. Probably just pass and try to have a wide enough board state to kill them soon. TM. I have enough mana to play a Hero of the Dunes and unearth a Courier next turn. Which could be pretty legit. Am I going to lose to Take Flight again? Or are they going to make the Colossus flying? That would be funny. That'd be thematic. Oh, Boulder Branch Golem. Gain 3. Yeah, the life gain is a very big deal. Epic Confrontation, kill the hero, that's fine. Okay, they don't have the mana to untap the Colossus, so they have 2 blockers. Don't think I can kill them. 2 blockers. They block Vanguard Gigamole, haste out a Courier. Take 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Nope. So block with the Unearth card and do another turn of setup, making a wide board state. Where I go Gigamole Thopter this turn. Yep, and then I can Hero of the Dunes and unearth some stuff next turn. Skullflayer. I don't know that I have time to cast this. But I could reanimate it off of Hero of the Dunes, but by the time I'm playing Hero of the Dunes, I'm trying to just kill them in one swing anyway, I think. And I could just reanimate the 4/4. Okay, I think I probably should have just traded Vanguard off into one of their things earlier anyway. Clear a little bit of a path. Probably just stumbled a little too long here. Because it's been close, like we've had multiple opportunities to be swinging in for like 4 or 5. If we missed like 0 land drops this game, I think we'd handedly win. I don't know how many we needed to hit. How many we needed to not miss, because I think I only missed like 2 or 3, but it was pretty deadly. Oh, they must have Gaia's Gift for trample here, where it doesn't matter what we do now. Alright. Needed more lands, sadly. But we're pretty dead now, I think. I guess I'll see. 7. They don't have Gaia's Gift. If they do have Gaia's Gift, it doesn't matter what I do. Even if I could technically survive, it would wipe my whole board. So, if they don't have Gaia's Gift, what is my best block? And I think it's like... I guess I have to block 2 creatures no matter what. So just block with the smallest creatures I have, so lose the vermin here. Do that and gain 1. No Gaia's Gift. Still definitely can't kill him on the crackback, so... Unless they play literally no creatures this turn. Well, they played literally no creatures. They've got 4 cards in their hand and 7 mana up, though, so... They probably just counter whatever I try to do and kill me from there. Let's see. Is it Urza's rebuff or something? Might be Urza's rebuff or something like that. What am I reanimating here? I have 3 mana. That's only enough mana to reanimate one thing anyway. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. It's not going to be lethal. Because I don't have enough mana. Then I pick up a flyer. Maybe it would have been better to static net the Thopter, but I genuinely thought they would have a counterspell or something here. They didn't even play a land. I have no idea what the 4 cards are. Okay. Well, then it didn't matter, because they just desynchronized the Spotter Thopter back on the board. Okay. So if I tried to static net the current Spotter Thopter, they still get the other one back. I guess I don't die in one hit anymore? Wait, yeah, I do, because I didn't have the mana to cast Static Net and Hero of the Dunes. I guess I'd be at 5 life and I take 4 in this guy, so I'll go to 1. But no shot at victory there. We just stumbled too hard on the lands early. Maybe I should be playing 18 lands even, with the quadruple Hero of the Dunes being the really important 5 mana thing to do. Where missing land drops between turns 1 and 5 is super detrimental. I don't think so, since I only have the Scrapwork Mutt to get out of Flood. I think we just gotta cross our fingers a bit. Hope to hit lands a little more consistently. We are 1-2 now, heading into game number 4. Here we are on the play for game 4. We've got Vanguard into Thopter. Just need to find a black source by turn 5, which should be pretty easy to do. We have 9 swamps and 2 energy refractors, so there's 11 black sources. Tiny bit more than a third of our deck at this point. Several draw steps to get there. Our opponent is on green-white, and they start with a Yoshin Dissident, which is a very explosive card if they follow it up with any Powerstone or 1/1 Soldier production. And now they have Dissident and Wormlet, both of these getting +1/+1 counters as they play artifacts. That is extremely explosive, so I'll static net something here. I think I static net the Dissident first, because if they get like 3 artifacts in one turn, they get 3 +1/+1 counters with this one, whereas with the Wormlet, they only get the 1 counter. They do get life gain off the Wormlet, but still. Alright, I got one more turn to hit a swamp and not get punished for the mono white opening hand. So let's cross our fingers for that. We had an energy refractor, that's still fine. That would be one of our 11 black sources. Okay, we hit another black card instead. I don't know what I static net here. If they don't play any artifacts, then Vanguard is worse for me. If they do, then Wormlet's worse for me. They've played no artifacts yet, though, which is super weird. Guess I just hit the Vanguard. Now that I have 2 Power Stones, if I hit Energy Refractor, it's basically free. Alright, they have an artifact for the Wormlet, and... oh my god. And it blocks the reconstructed Thopter. Alright, we drew 3 of 4 Hero of the Dunes before 1 Swamp or Energy Refractor. Not under a lot of pressure. We got time, and there's an energy refractor. Let's see if I draw a swamp off that and get to play a Hero of the Dunes immediately, or if I gotta wait a turn. Do have to wait a turn. We hit another black card. I can play a Powerstone Fracture or a Gnawing Vermin right now, though. Do I want to Vermin myself to fill the grave for the triple Hero of the Dunes, sorry? Or do I want to just Fracture the Wormlet? I could Fracture the Tower Worker and keep hitting in the sky. That's pretty spicy too. Let's do that. Lauren's Escape? Gaia's Gift, basically the same thing. But it gets a counter now. Alright, that's fine. Ooh, send it in. So they got more flying coming? If that's the case, I'll trade with the Engineer and then reanimate it with Hero. No flying coming? Confusion. Well, I'm just going to keep jamming out Heroes of the Dunes. Now. Epic Confrontation, get rid of the hero. Which is fine. Still got all of its work done. Got a 2-for-1 for us. Cleared out the removal spell and reanimated my Thopter. Down to 12. Okay. Okay. This Wormlet has become an absolute nightmare for us. I think I'm still trying to race here. Send into the Tower Worker. Okay, we trade. Clear that out of here. Another Vanguard off the top. Pretty strong. Oh boy. Down to 8 now. And a self-assembler, that's a really big deal. Big 2-for-1s. Again, our deck is like make it to 5 mana and then play a bunch of 2-for-1s. And we're doing it. Okay. That self-assembler draw was so big here. Because now I jam in with that and play another 4/4 as a blocker. They can double block and only lose 1 creature. They're just going to take it. A little safer to play a hero there, but... Power Plant Worker's more aggressive. Closes this game out quicker. 5. Got 3 mana afterwards. So I can buff the Power Plant Worker. I could have just buffed it. Oh, it doesn't let me buff it twice. Ooh, that's the first time I realized I can only buff it once. Well, good to know in a game where it doesn't matter. I didn't, like, put myself to where I'm getting killed on the crackback trying to lethal them with that or anything this game. Boulder Branch Golem is very nice here. Gives them some breathing room. Chump there. Actually, they're at 8. They just die if I don't chump. They go block, block, take 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And let's make sure it's extra lethal by playing another hero. Just being really safe about it. All right. that was looking pretty sketchy there. It definitely took a while to find the black source, but once we did, having 3 Hero of the Dunes and the top decked self-assembler as well, just for a bunch of 2-for-1s to be able to trade off on blocks and draw another creature, was a really big deal towards stabilizing and flipping that game in our favor. So we are 2-2. At least not going to be a 1-3. That would have been super brutal. So see if we can't keep clawing back out of the 0-2 hole we started with here. And here we are on the play for game number 5. Both of our colors, we've got a turn 1, turn 3, and turn 4 play. That's all actually synergize pretty well together because we've got a lot of self-mill to go with the Skull Flayer. Just milled some lands though, which is awkward. Trying to fill our grave with some creatures for the Skull Flayer. We did draw into a 2-mana creature though, so now we're curving out. Turn 1, 2, 3, and 4. Again, none of these are like super high quality cards to be curving out with, but I mean the Gigamole is really good in this deck because it digs for those heroes while filling the grave. Like the Skull Flayer, the Mind Worker are pretty mediocre. But if you get to curve out every single turn, drop a creature every turn, then they don't even have to be that high quality for you to have a pretty good time. So let's offer the trades here, because we like having a full graveyard with both Hero of the Dunes and Gixian Skull Flayer, so if they trade off, that's pretty fine. Now we drop a Skull Flayer. Hoping to hit some lands again. Arbalist Engineers, that's pretty nasty. Kill the Mind Worker just when it hits the board. Or they can get a Power Stone. Or a +1/+1 counter, but they are going to kill the Mind Worker. And we did hit a land. Beautiful. Now we Gigamole. Fill that grave for Skull Flayer. I'm still going to pick up the Power Plant Worker though, which means Skull Flayer is not activating yet. But I think getting the 4/4 is pretty worth it. Drawing 2 instead of just getting a counter. Well, drawing 1 instead of getting a counter. Well, if we don't hit a land, now we can Gix's Caress, and that'll be the land for Power Plant Worker the turn after that. Explosion the Skull Flayer, fair enough. Now we have a beautiful target for Hero of the Dunes, and the mana for Hero of the Dunes. I won't have 3 creatures in my grave the turn after I reanimate it. And I don't have anything else getting buffed by the hero, so I'm actually still going to play the Power Plant Worker first. But I think that is going to be my plan. I'm just going to pick up a Skull Flayer now. Hopefully they like blow up my Power Plant Worker. Perfect. So now we pick up a Skull Flayer and it's going to get buffed during my upkeep every turn. Just very big. Really going to get buffed during my upkeep if they trade into Gigamole. Alright. Here we go. Here are the Dunes, the Skull Flayer back. Alright, reanimate that Scrapwork Mutt, discard a card and draw a card. Send in the team. They combat trick my Skull Flayer, they combat trick my Skull Flayer. Gaia's Gift. Alright, well that's a pretty rough combat trick because it leaves them with a +1/+1 counter, so it leaves them with extra value. Alright, we're winning this race if I can get the board to stay the same. Obstinate Baloth. That's brutal because I can't make them discard that or it goes on the board, so I have to just pick Cindermaw. Alright, yeah. We are not winning the race on board against Obstinate Baloth, but this is as best as we can do here. Jam in, exile the Baloth with Static Net, and try to keep going from there. It's a top deck war. There's a Scrapwork Mutt, good start to it. They can raise it to the ground, but then I can reanimate it later. Surprised they let me trade into the 3/3 instead of just blowing it up. Okay, Juggernaut outraces us a lot, so I think I have to just block it. But then they can still unearth it and hit me with it one more time, so it's going to be a lot of damage regardless. Yeah, it'll be another 5 damage after this turn. Alright, 2 for 2 for our opponent. Getting some gas there. See what Gigamole finds us. Chain Dancer's a 2/4 double strike. Super not good for me. I think more than anything I need to just chump block Chain Dancer. Or I want to just chump block Chain Dancer. So let's get another card draw to dig with this Combat Courier. I think that's better than just a 2/2 Vigilance right now. Chump, draw a card. Alright, Juggernaut's coming back. As imagined, trampling over for 50,000 damage. No attack with the Chain Dancer, I guess because they can't give a double strike this turn anyway. So we take our 5. Draw for turn. That's a good one. I guess I should have seen that coming. We still have 2 more Hero of the Dunes in their last 14 cards. I mean, we pick up the Skull Flayer, right? Yep. The Scrapwork Mutt for our opponent to dig. Discard the raise to the ground and draw a card. And they just scoop. They're just already over it. It was going to be a few turns before we were getting to lethal, but I will absolutely take it. We are 3-2 now. Turned that 1-2 start into at least a 50-50 run. You love to see it. At least 50-50 this time, but if we get another win, it's where we're doing great. We're at least breaking even on gems pretty much. So, nice little turnaround here these last couple games. Alright, here we are on the play with a couple 5-drops and a 4-drop in the hand, but I'm greedy. I'm gonna hope we just hit lands all day long. And milling 2 doesn't change the average distribution of lands to non-lands in our deck, so I'm gonna mill 2 with Gnawing Vermin, and looks like it actually works out in our favor because we mill 2 non-land cards. So hey, just a net positive to mill ourselves there. Alright, we have hit land number 3. Can we go runner, runner, runner? We just gotta draw, I guess, just runner, runner from this point on. Just 2 more lands in the next 3 draws. There's one of them. Let's go. Just need to draw 1 more land now in the next 2 turns. And we're golden. Our opponent has a Junkyard Genius out. I'm very happy they didn't curve out with it, and we just drew perfectly. All lands. Let's go. I already have a Skull Flayer to reanimate with the heroes, so I don't need to mill myself. I might just Static Net the Junkyard Genius, because it's a very big deal in these decks. If you don't believe me, check out our last Premier draft of the Brothers War, where we had 3 copies of Junkyard Genius. And it was the most important card in the whole deck. Gix's Caress. What are you going to take? Hero of the Dunes or Hero of the Dunes? Pick your poison. Alright, and now we just go wild. Well, they're going to know we have this swamp, but I think that's fine. You know what? No. No revealed information. Time to start Hero of the Dunes jamming in. pick up a Skull Flayer, because as soon as one more card dies... That's an interesting decision. Unless they can kill Skull Flayer. I guess it stops 1 damage now, but it puts a +1/+1 counter on Skull Flayer if they do that then instead of during our upkeep. It's mana efficient too, though, because they had the extra 1 mana up and they might want to tap out this turn. Okay, so they have the removal. That makes sense then. Alright, now we Gigamole, digging for another Hero of the Dunes. Don't find one, but we find a power plant worker, which is an okay alternative. We just poke them for 2 while I have the mana. I don't think I do. Because if I hit a Hero of the Dunes, I might want to get a flyer. And if I hit like a Powerstone Destroyer thingy-mabob, I might want to hit them for 2 in the sky and then sack the Unearthed card. Our opponent is on like all lands. So really, really excellent work done by the Static Net this game. Here's a power plant worker. This is a little weird, but I'm going to play a land so they can't like double disfigure the power plant worker. Just hold up the 3. So they have to have something that can kill a 6 toughness creature to kill it. Because some of Red's removal is like 5 damage as well, Unleash Shell. So we play around that by playing the land as well. They can't do a 5 damage burn spell, they can't do 2 disfigures. Just make sure we always have the mana up to buff the worker to keep it alive from all that kind of stuff. And again, rather than buff it right now, I'm just going to hold the mana up to play around Unleash Shell and cards like it. So drop an Energy Refractor. Hit a Static Net. That's a solid, solid draw. So I'm going to play a Scrapwork Mutt and not discard a card then. Just to have a wide board state. Alright, well, that was a super lucky game for us. More accurately, just a very unlucky game for our opponent. They kind of just drew hot garbage after their Junkyard Genius. They drew 1 creature the whole game. We just exiled the 1 creature and slammed things out from then. Their deck looks pretty good. Overwhelming Remorse, Disfigure, Gix's Crest, and Junkyard Genius are all high-value cards. The Wellspring works great with the Junkyard Genius. They just flooded out a good amount. I have no idea what's in their hand, but not enough to flip things around. So pretty lucky game for us. We are now 4-2. We've turned a 1-2 run into at least breaking even on gems and a positive win rate, which I'm super happy with because I also think this was a bit of an awkward draft. I definitely don't know if the full pivot worked out perfectly, but it ended up with a super fun deck. I like the quadruple Hero of the Dunes a lot. Turn 4 Gigamoles into turn 5 Hero of the Dunes is also pretty cool, so it ended up with a more fun deck, probably not as powerful a deck as if we had just stuck to a core strategy from early during the draft. So yeah, I'll take it here. Pretty nice spot to be. 4-3 at worst now. Let's see how things keep up as we start game number 7. With an excellent hand. Courier into Vanguard into Refractor. Draws us extra cards. We've got multiple expendable creatures to trade off so that Hero of the Dunes gets some value soon. Big fan of everything going on here. We're playing against a green deck. Green-red with some completely different lands. I don't know if I like that. Very mixed up over there. Ooh, now I can just play a Gix's Caress this turn? I don't draw a card, but I make sure they don't have a good follow-up play this next turn, and I still buff the Vanguard to get a trade into Sprite, most likely. Oh, wow. Oh my god, their hand is good. Got a Bushwhack for removal. They've got some 3/2s, one with haste and one that spits out a Powerstone. And they've got a Stone Seeker for a Menace card that also spits out a Powerstone, which is an incredible deal. These are all really good cards. I think Stone Seeker's the best card by a little bit out of all of them. But they're all good. There's an Argothian Opportunist. Get a Power Stone to play their artifacts. Find a reconstructed Thopter. I really need to not miss a land drop, so I'm going to Energy Refractor here, and if I hit the land immediately, then I get to play the land and the Thopter. If I don't hit the land, then I just play another Refractor and try to hit it off that. Sweet. Hit the land immediately, we drop a Thopter. And Vanguard is very likely to trade off now, but that's fine, because if I hit another land, now I have something in my grave for Hero of the Dunes. They've got 5 mana available, if you count the Power Stone. So still not the 7 they need to make the 6/4 version of the Blitz Automaton. Okay, cannot block Argothian Sprite, and there's a Penregan Strongbull. Pretty spicy creature. Very good at sacking some Power Stones for extra damage. They're just going to use it to fight the Thopter for now. We do hit the land, and they don't have anything that blocks flyers, so I think I do Hero of the Dunes the Thopter back. That is our play for the turn. Not in love with our position. We definitely got to draw into some stuff here. I think the board state's actually pretty even. It's anybody's game right now. We are racing each other. There's the Scrapwork Mutt. Discard a card, draw a card. Discarding a land. Play the next land, because if they hit another mana, they can play the Automaton for 7. We draw another land. Let's drop our Energy Refractor and see what we find. And we're just going to start jamming in for 3 damage a turn in the sky. Have the Combat Courier to chump block plus draw a card. Reanimate it and draw another card next turn. Ooh. Might want a Static Net and Argothian Sprite. I should probably save it for the Blitz Automaton. But honestly, the Sprite is a mana sink. For 7 mana, it keeps getting 2 counters a turn. Might be scarier than the Automaton to me. Just take 1 hit from the Automaton and then get a chump with Courier. Yeah, I'm going to be mana efficient, and I'm just going to exile the Sprite. So if I exile the Automaton, I'm just going to have to exile the Sprite soon too, to not get hit just as hard by that thing. So Automaton's back. Well, Automaton's here, it's not back. Sends in with the Mutts, since they can unearth that for value. Take the damage, go to 12. Gigamol's a great draw. Hold up a black source. Gigamol is like the perfect blocker for that Scrapwork Mutt. Don't have the mana to play this Warlord's Leet, even if I play the Plains. So we send in the Thopter. I could send in the Hero and trade with the Strongbull since they're tapped out. That would actually be fine. Hitting a little less hard each turn, but getting rid of a Strongbull is a big deal. I think they're pretty equally valuable. They're just going to not block. They're down to 7. 2 mana to sack the Courier, draw a card. Yeah, I don't need to play this land. I'll hold it for if I hit a Scrapwork Mutt. Alright, they top deck Energy Refractor to draw another card. Send in the big spooky stuff. With Strongbow, they could sack 4 artifacts. We lose 4 and then take 4. So I go to 8, and then I take 6. So I take 10 total. Go to 2. They have a burn spell in their hand. They could just kill us. Losing a Gigamole to them just sacking 1 Powerstone's rough too, though. It's just rough all around. I'm gonna hope for no combat trick here. Ooh, Powerstone Fracture is definitely a draw. So they're just gonna hit us for 2. They don't sack anything. Just play an Obstinate Baloth. That's pretty big. The gain 4 is a huge deal. 3 for Warlord's Elite and 3 for Skullflayer. I don't have the mana to do both of these and a Powerstone Fracture, but I could do 1 and a Fracture. Just hit for 3 in the sky again. Now I need to hold off blockers, and we Powerstone Fracture the Strongbow or the Automaton. We have to hit them 3 more turns. I'm gonna get rid of the Automaton. Strongbow only attacks as 4 power like 1 time. So I could just block the Strongbow with Warlord's Elite and make them sack everything. If they don't attack with it, I'll still just trade Elite into the Baloth. Ooh, another Argothian Sprite is scary. No attacks at all. Let's go. Reconstructed Thopter. Let's do some good stuff. 4 mana total to unearth this and draw a card. I do have the mana to do that and play Skullflayer, so we will. Find a self-assembler, that's a big one. That is a spicy one. Alright. 2 more hits till death. They have to pass turn again. Here's a self-assembler. Self-assembler 3 mana up afterwards. I'll just grab the 2-drop to defend ourselves. Because unless they exile the Thopter, as long as I don't die next turn, we just kill them. If they kill it with a burn spell or something, I just unearth it and kill them. So unless they exile the Thopter, they're still dead next turn, and now even if they do, I have enough creatures to attack them with everybody and kill them. Alright, send in the squad. It is 4/4 on the 4/4, 5/4 on the Sprite. They can buff it. 2/3 on the 2/1. 3/3 on the Strongbow they can buff. I mean, this is good enough to definitely not die, at least. Sure, we'll do that. Maybe we died a Gaia's Gift, actually. Maybe I should have played around that. Because if they buff this a bunch and then give it Trample, Gaia's Gift might get there. Gaia's Gift would have put us to 1 life the way that I blocked. So I think I should have blocked Strongbow with more toughness, thought about that a little bit more. Does look like they're just sending a message, hitting as hard as they can though, and scooping it up there. We are now 5-2 in the money yet again. In the money every draft so far of the Return to Brothers War. Super, super sweet stuff. But we'll see if we can't keep it up as we head into game number 8 now. Here we are for game 8. We're definitely going to have to just discard a power plant worker here to draw a card. Make sure we hit our lands to get up to 5 mana. Hopefully trade off a Scrapwork Mutt to reanimate it later with a Hero of the Dunes. This hand looks super reasonable. We have hit our 4th mana. Well, now I have 5 mana. I'm going to discard one of these lands at that point then. Because now I just need to hit 1 land in the next 3 turns to still have all the mana I need. And if I discard the power plant worker, I could just like flood out a bit. Playing against blue-white, there's that Zephyr Sentinel, the bane of my existence. At least it's only a 2/1 flyer right now. There's the Take Flight, the other bane of my existence. But this time, we get that nice 1-for-1 static net here. And just get that out of here, and don't worry about it for the rest of the game. Which is a pretty big deal. And now, thanks to the Powerstone from the static net, even if I don't hit land 5, I just drop a power plant worker down, which is good because I don't have a creature engraved for Hero of the Dunes anyway. So send in the Scrapwork Mutt, drop a power plant worker. Cohort is super annoying because they just block Mutt with a 1/1. I guess I just play the power plant worker then. The Temporal Anchor. Oh, no. So they draw 3 a turn now, basically. So at the beginning of their upkeep, they scry 2. Whenever they scry cards to the bottom, they exile that many cards from the bottom, and they can play those cards. So if the top 2 cards of their library are playable, like a land and a spell, then they just scry them both to the bottom, play those for the turn, and still draw their card during their draw step. So now we have to beat an opponent who's drawing 3 cards a turn, and I'm not sure how we can do that. Maybe getting as aggressive as possible, going Prison Sentence Cohort. Find land 5. Drop a Mine Worker. Jam in with everybody. And then next turn we get to Hero of the Dunes, picking up the Scrapwork Mutt, buffing the Mine Worker and the Gixian Skullflayer. Alright, scry both to the bottom. They draw a Prison Sentence and a Vanguard, cast both of those, and draw a card for turn. Now they Prison Sentence a Mana Worker, play a 2/2 blocker. Oh, Lord. Oh my god, and the Prison Sentence scries too. I didn't even put that together, so they get to play the land off that. To play another card this turn. Yep. And it's a creature that dies into another blocker. Jesus Christ. Talk about getting absolutely domed by a legendary artifact here. They've got nothing to stop flyers. But I have 2 Hero of the Dunes in a row. So let's do that. I'm not going to discard the Thopter, though. One of these is just a chump if they go for double block. If they go for block block. Right. One of them gets through. We hit them down to 5. Oh my god, the Temporal Anchor, they can play those cards forever? It's not even till end of turn? Holy crap. So the prison sentence is scry 2, even though they didn't cast Wing Command of the turn they exiled it, they can still cast it the next turn. Oh my god, our opponent's drawn like 6 extra cards already? They're still at 5, that's something. But I guess they do have flyers then. Yeah, and recommission as well. Here are the dunes back the mine worker. But everything's a 1-for-1 trade on attacks now. Because they trade Vanguard into Skullflare. Thopter doesn't get there. I mean, it feels pretty over. Maybe I should have discarded the Thopter to draw a card and just went for a big Unearth swing this turn. In which case I'd be attacking with 4 creatures. They still have 4 blockers, so it still doesn't matter. They block everything, take 0, wipe out most of our board, draw 3 next turn. Now involuntary cooldown to stun 2 of our cards. They're going to play the Cave Guard instead, though, get an 8/8 on the board. I was about to say, I was going to be like, whoa there, friend, I'm not sure you want to send in with anything that doesn't have Vigilance at 5 life. They decided against it. So, I have to hit an Energy Refractor to unearth a Mutt here. If I do find an Energy Refractor, I win though, right? 2 mana to play it. 3 mana to unearth the Mutt, and 2 mana to unearth... Oh, Thopter's not in grave, it's in hand, so no, we don't win the game off of a Mutt trade. Probably worth it though. I mean... 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Maybe not if we hit like a static net or something. Speaking of. So if I static net, they have 4 blockers for 5 attackers. Something gets in for at least 3. The Cave Guard remains. Everything else is a trade. Could exile the Anchor. Not trying to find lethal immediately. Alright, let's try exiling the Anchor. Grinding this out. Another Phalanx Vanguard. If I trade there, they'll have 5 blockers against 6 attackers. They have to pretty much block trade everywhere. The Cave Guard remains still. I think with double commando, a flyer doesn't matter too much, so I kind of do like getting the Unearth attack out. Unearth attacks are big deals here because they kind of have to trade. So like we can make them lose 2 creatures off of our Unearth cards. 1 when they attack in and 1 when they block. Energy Refractor is an incredible draw with a Scrapwork Mud on board. Three, 4, 5, 6. I mean, I guarantee I hit them for 4, but I'm pretty sure I just hit them for 4 if I Unearth this anyway. It's actually, as much as I'd like to surprise Refractor so they don't know I can Unearth the Mutt, it's probably best to do it now in case I hit a creature or something, and I do hit a creature. They probably have that like 3 damage to a tapped creature thing. Because they thought a lot in our end step, but then they didn't think at all when I did that stuff. So they have something that they can't use unless we have a tapped creature on board. So if I attack with everybody, that plays super poorly against 3 damage to a tapped creature. Maybe they just had to stop in their upkeep or something. Alright, yeah, this works super fine if we just clear out a creature there with just an Unearth ability, not even a full card. We're definitely grinding it out at this rate. Now we have 6 creatures to their 4, which kills them if they don't have the interaction. Okay, they go to the end step. Let's see. Now, worst case scenario and everything dies, at least I reanimate a Scrapwork Mutt, discard this land, draw a card. So let's see, do they have the Deadly Riposte? If they do, they're alive. If they don't, they're dead. I guess it could be really any instant speed removal, but Riposte is the one that would make the most sense right now. Deal 3 to something, gain 2. 3 to a tapped creature and gain 2. If they have that, I think they would not attack or not block a hero of the dunes and then shoot a hero. Because that makes everything else smaller. Okay, they do have the Riposte, but I think they could have blocked better than they did. Alright, well, might just lose because we didn't play around Riposte. Got a little too impatient. I mean, they can't attack. They can attack with the Cave Guard because it's vigilant, but they can't send in with the Flyer without fear of dying. I mean, this probably all balances out to still just being whoever draws better wins either way. Right, because if I didn't go for that attack that turn, then I'm just sitting here doing nothing. As I draw planes into planes, and they draw into Prison Sentence, which puts them ahead. Cure of the Dunes is a big, big, big one. Pick up the Skull Flayer. Yeah, I think this pretty much balances out to... Things are playing out basically exactly like they would have otherwise. Where I'm still just... We're still in a top deck war and we just see who draws better. What is their last card in hand? That is the question. And this will be the deciding factor, because whether I win right now or lose right now, I would have won or lost right now going for this attack into the Riposte plus whatever's in their hand. So let's see. Let's discard a card, draw a card first. Just a land. Let's mill ourselves and see if we hit any more Unearth. Which I don't know if I have. I might have a Combat Courier still in there. Okay, none of that is Unearth. Cross our fingers. Do they have the bounce on non-land permanent thing? Because they're looking over the whole board. They have disenchants. Oh my god. Wait, if they just do that, they're dead though, right? They take 3? Wait, could they survive with disenchant? Maybe there was no way to not die. There was no way for disenchant to save them. Actually. Yeah, that's the closest they could get. Oh my god, I thought disenchant could have saved them there, but no. Okay, so the big decision point that game was playing around Deadly Riposte or not. I don't know. I think it would have played out pretty much the exact same way whether or not we played around Riposte. Because if I played around it, then we just sit there, they remain at that higher life total until I draw the second hero. Then I slam that down and go for this attack here, where we would still, like, barely beat Riposte plus Disenchant. I don't know, if they still had a full board of creatures by the time that we declared an attack, because we were playing around Riposte the whole time, maybe them having Riposte plus Disenchant against our wide attack would have actually saved them here. I think it probably would have went the same either way, but if anything, it might have been worse if I waited to attack because I was playing around the Riposte until I drew a second Hero of the Dunes. Maybe. I don't know. I don't know. Really close game. We just had to get as aggressive as we could to get through that Temporal Anchor, push as much damage as we could, and then we found another static net to deal with it, and then things got a little stable for a moment. Really sketchy, really scary kind of the whole way through, but we are going to find a victory there in the end. We're now 6-2, meaning the worst we've done this time around with Brothers War is 6-3 at worst, which is just fantastic. See if we can't get a third 7-win run with this Hero of the Dunes deck as we head into the final battle, win or lose. Everything on the line here. Here we are for the final game of Magic. We've got Reconstructed Thopter into Gigamole. So the plan here is to have some Gigamoles, mill some cheap creatures, and pick up some Hero of the Dunes. We could also just draw a Hero of the Dunes. That works too. Our opponent is on blue-white. They have started with Survivor of Corliss and followed up with Harbin, and we might just be dead. If they can deal with this Reconstructed Thopter, we're probably dead. Because Blue-White Soldiers is a very aggressive archetype, so when they can curve out, oh my god, with 2 of the best bombs in the most aggressive archetype in the format, Harbin into Siege Veteran? Okay, I could just concede right now. I've changed my mind. We're not just probably dead, we're definitely dead. Because a Harbin is a 2-mana 3/2 flyer that's well above rate, and if they ever get 5 soldiers on the board, they win the game on the spot, giving their whole board +1/+1 flying. And Siege Veteran gives them a +1/+1 counter at the beginning of combat every single turn. It's just a Lunarch Veteran with some soldier token bonuses. So this is kind of rough. I'm pretty sure we're just dead. Unless we had, like, instant removal for the Siege Veteran and the Harbin, I don't think any deck is going to have a particularly good time against turn 2 Harbin, turn 3 Siege Veteran. This is just one of those really explosive curves. If you imagine, if they play a 4-drop this turn as well, that'll be insane. Or if they just spend all 4 of their mana on like a 1-drop, 3-drop kind of thing. Okay, at least they're not curving out with all of their mana. But I still don't see how we can possibly survive here. Yeah, I didn't even hit the 5th mana for Hero of the Dunes if they didn't subjugate a Thopter. I was like, maybe if they didn't have subjugation for Thopter, we could drop a Hero of the Dunes and have a 3-power flyer to block Harbin. But we missed land drop 5, and Now we're just dead. Because I play Gigamole, I can block 2 things on the ground and take 5. If they have an ambush paratrooper in their hand to flash in a soldier, they're just going to have the whole board get +1/+1 flying, and we can't block anything. This is less about issues with our deck losing this game and just more about their unstoppable rares slamming down together turn 2 into turn 3. The only way pretty much any deck is going to beat this is with 2 cheap removal spells very quickly. And we did not hit that. We don't have a ton of removal in this deck, and we didn't draw the removal that we do have. So they didn't get to flash in a soldier, so they don't have flying, right? Yeah, they have to attack with 5 soldiers. Oh, they just tap our whole board instead. That works too. Alright. Well, don't feel super bad about losing that game, and don't feel bad about our record at all. Again, I got a little greedy during this draft. I got super excited about Hero of the Dunes and made a big pivot late that ended up with us having a lot of more mediocre filler cards in the deck. But as I said, when I was talking about the deck overview in general, with 4 Hero of the Dunes, just having a curve of mediocre 1, 2, and 3 mana creatures to reanimate is still going to be powerful enough to win some games if we curve out with these creatures and then reanimate one of them with Hero of the Dunes and just keep chaining those heroes together. And that's exactly how it played out. We did win some games. We won 6 to be exact, which is more than I expected, because again, lots of very, very filler stuff, particularly Skullflayer, Mineworker, Vanguard. The scrap cards and the Unearthing Thopter actually played super well. I already knew about the scrapwork, about the Courier being good, but the Thopter was surprisingly good. The Gigamoles were surprisingly good with the 4 heroes as well, so that was great. Self-Assembler was great as a 2-for-1 play with the Power Plant Worker, but I still think, like, curve-wise, because of having 4 Hero of the Dunes at the top end already, this deck would have been much better with just a better curve. Gix's Caress as well. The Hero of the Dunes really emphasize that we want to be as aggressive as possible and get as much damage in as possible, so I guess the quality of the creatures didn't matter as much as kind of the quantity of creatures is what we really wanted for the Hero of the Dunes, where the perfect build of this deck that probably gets a 7-win run is a build with another solid 2-drop creature, another solid 3-drop creature, instead of Self-Assembler and Power Plant Worker, and then Gix's Caress, since it's a late game card that doesn't affect the board, having like just another any kind of 1-mana creature over a Gix's Caress, that would be like the perfect version of this deck. Even if the creatures weren't anything super powerful, just having another 1-drop, 2-drop, 3-drop over these 3 cards would make us curve out more aggressively, more consistently, get those big Hero of the Dunes kills alongside our removal to clear the path and everything, so that would have been pretty sweet. Also, Energy Refractor wasn't the greatest in this deck, just for the Scrapwork Mutt and the Couriers, so maybe some swaps of Energy Refractors and these cards for some better on-color black and white cards would improve it. But I don't think there was a ton we could have done in our draft pod to make up for those weaknesses, since we did move into the Hero of the Dunes black-white deck pretty late overall, with kind of a dirtly pile of cards at that point. So I think that's more of like what you want to focus on when you know you're heading in the Hero of the Dunes direction, and less stuff that we really could have actively changed during the draft. I think I kind of set myself up to be pushed into this kind of position when I hopped onto the late hero and tried to be like, let's just dump all the green and go fully white-black here. I think I kind of set myself up to not really have those options to make my curve as good as it necessarily needed to be. But 6-3 is still great, and I think every deck that we lost to was pretty great, and they had some decent curves and stuff, some powerful spells overall. So I will take it. Still up in gems, still up in the money here, grabbing our 1,800 gems and our 5 packs and ending today's draft. But that is going to end today's video. As always, I'd like to thank my patrons and YouTube members for their support, as well as you for watching the video. If you're interested in seeing more videos like this, you can always like, comment, and subscribe to tell the YouTube algorithm to send you some more in your recommended feed. If you'd like to catch me live, you can check out the Twitch channel in the link in the description below. And if you'd like to support the channel directly, you can check out the Patreon link or the join button below. Other than that, as always, thank you very much for watching. and I'll see you again soon for some more Magic Arena.